Hello, I'm Felicia Alvarado, and I'm going to be discussing the three characteristics of the Hebrew sense or Christian sense of oneself. And then the second part of the question, do you think secular, non-religious American culture still retains these ideas of the sense of self? So first I want to address just kind of the three characteristics, and then I'll go back through and kind of talk about where the American culture stands within that. So in my text right here that I got, I kind of just went through and kind of tried to pick up on the three key characteristics, because there are a lot of characteristics, but I just wanted to address the ones that are more so the core of each one. And so the first main idea, I think, of a characteristic is that man is created in God's image. And so I know in week one we kind of had a discussion paper where we talked about what exactly it means to be above all of God's creation, even though we're God's creation, kind of that how we're higher than the rest of creation. And so it talks about in the Bible, and in this little Bible that I have, it talks a little bit about how God created the whole world, and then he said all of it was good. He didn't just say that man was good. He said that the seas and the land and the animals, he said all of his creation was good. And then man is created last. And I think that kind of signifies leading up to that point, how man is the pinnacle of it all, the highest of the high, and it says that in the Bible, and that's why we know that man is above everything. And it said in our texts, it quoted the Bible saying how man was just a little lower than God himself. And so we are made, overall the idea is we're created in God's image, and we're created with intrinsic worth and value, and that God has all this undying love for us from the moment that he creates us. And then it also, so that's more so the Old Testament when we're first made, and then in the New Testament it just talks about again how we're made in God's image, and it's just a stem from the whole idea of being made in God's image, and how we are, if we're made in God's image, we're like him, and we want to love like him, forgive like him, and be like God. We are created in his image, so therefore inherently that's how we act. How we should act. I'm not going to say that's how we do act, because that kind of leads in to our second idea, is that we're born in sin and alienated from our Maker, and that is after Adam and Eve are born into this in the Garden of Eden, into this perfect life, and then they they go against God's wishes when he asks them not to eat from the tree of knowledge. And then when they do, they defy God, and they know the difference between good and evil. And it says in our text how they knew they were naked. They had the knowledge of that. And so what I want to touch on with that second main idea is that we are intrinsically good, but we're corrupted by sin. And it says that clearly in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, Hebrew and Christianity, that we are amazing and wonderful, and we're made so well, but because of our inherent sin that we can't not do because of our fall, we are corrupted, and we're hopeless without God, is the idea of that. And so first main idea, like I said, is we're created in his image. We have all this worth, and we are made to be like God, and that we do have these characteristics, but second idea, because of sin, we are like God, but we are born into sin because of our fall as humans. And then I kind of mixed this third characteristic in on accident with the first part of my characteristic, which was just dominion over the rest of creation. I think I shouldn't have done this. I kind of mixed the two of man's created in God's image, and that's why we're have dominion over things, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think God just made us in that way, that to have dominion over the rest of creation. And so that's our three main points. And so I kind of want to talk about now how that kind of fits into our world today. And so I think what I can take from all this is that obviously, like, the secular world country that we live in, it's not going to be fully bought into all the way into one idea. That maybe kind of bits and pieces kind of play into role. And I think one thing in American culture is that people do see themselves as valuable and have worth and are good. I think the intrinsic worth idea, being created in God's image, is kind of something mixed into our secular world, that we are valuable and good people. I think that's what a lot of people think. And I think my parents aren't Christians, and I think they would say, yeah, Felicia, when you were born a good, beautiful, perfect child. I just think that's the way majority of people like to think. They like to think in an optimistic and positive way, that we are wonderful and that nothing's wrong with us. And at the same time of that, the second main characteristic is that we're born in sin and we can't help the evil that we do. There's also that, because if we just look at our country and all the evilness and all of like the shootings that have been happening in Santa Barbara and recently in Seattle Pacific, if we look at that, there's so much evil in this country and in the secular view. And I think people see that aspect of it too, that yeah, we are good and we're born in a good way and we have worth, but at the same time there's so much evilness around us, and we are corrupted people by not by sin. The word, I think, the secular country that we would use is, we're not corrupted by sin, but we're corrupted by society, is I think what a lot of people would say. And so, and then just to touch on the last characteristic, the dominion over rest of creation, I think in another way, yes, our American culture agrees with that too, because for instance, hunting that we don't see animals as valuable as we are. Obviously, we hunt them, and so we do see, I think, in a lot of ways, that we have dominion over a lot of everything, that humans are the highest up, and that is that. So all in all, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of connections that the non-religious view has with Christianity, but like I said, it's a lot of different wording is used and a lot of different connections are made, so it's never exactly spot on, but there's a lot of similarities within that. So, okay, this was supposed to be 4 minutes. It's been 8, so I'm going to stop now, and thank you for listening.